The students, we will discuss today Deep Water by William Douglas. First, about the author. William O. Douglas was born in Maine, Minnesota on October 16, 1898 and raised in Yakima, Washington. He entered Whitman College in 1916, but his studies were interrupted by military service in World War I. Douglas was graduated from Whitman in 1920 and taught school for 2 years before attending law school at Columbia University. Upon graduation in 1925, he joined a New York law firm, but left 2 years later to spend 1 year in Yakima. He subsequently returned to teach law at Columbia University and transferred to the faculty of Yale University in 1929. In 1936, President Franklin D. Roosevelt appointed Douglas to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and in 1937 he became chairman. President Roosevelt nominated Douglas to the Supreme Court of the United States on April 15, 1939. The Senate confirmed the appointment on April 17, 1939. Douglas had the longest tenure of any justice, serving on the Supreme Court for 36 years, spanning the careers of 5 Chief Justices. He retired on November 12, 1975 and died on January 19, 1980 at the age of 81. Now about the story. The story Deep Waters is about how the writer overcame his fear of water and learned swimming. When he was 3 or 4 years old, the writer had gone to the beach in California with his father. The waves, the beach knocked him down and he went underwater. The experience bred a permanent fear of water in the child's subconscious mind. The story tells how, with determination and willpower, he overcame this fear. The writer had decided to learn swimming at the YMCA in Yakima when he was 10 or 11 years old. In the beginning, the author reveals his first fearful experience in the water when he was barely 3 or 4 years old, when his father took him to the beach in California. He hung on to his father, but still the powerful waves knocked him down and swept over him. Terror of the overpowering force of waves was inflicted in his heart. When he enrolled himself for swimming lessons, this fear returned to him. However, he gathered confidence and went to the pool with his water wings. In the beginning, everything was going well till a big boy of about 18 picked him up and threw him into the deep end of the pool. He was terrified, but he had a plan. He decided that when his feet hit the bottom, he would make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. But his plan didn't work out exactly as he had hoped. It seemed a long way down, and before he could hit the bottom, his lungs were ready to burst. When his feet hit the bottom, he attempted to summon all his strength and jump. He had hoped to come out of the water safely, but to his surprise, he was rather coming up really slowly. When he opened his eyes, all he saw was dirty yellow water. He tried to scream for help, but no sound came out as his eyes and nose came out of the water, but not his mouth. He sank back to the bottom of the pool. His lungs and head ached, but he was unwilling to give up. He remembered his strategy, but when he went down, he opened his eyes and saw nothing. He opened his eyes and saw nothing but water with a yellow glow. Once again he jumped when he hit the bottom, but it wasn't useful. He was still surrounded by waves. He trembled with fear as his hands and legs refused to move. Then he saw light. His eyes were out and his nose was almost out as well. But then he started going down for the third time. This time he stopped giving any effort. There was no more panic. Everything was quiet and peaceful, and then he passed into oblivion. When his consciousness returned to him, he was lying on his stomach, vomiting. He heard that he nearly died. This unfortunate incident had a very negative impact on his mind and health. This fear haunted him, and he never went back to the pool for years. A few years later, he heard of the water of cascades and wished to get into them, but his fear, kept him from exploring. He was deprived of the joy of fishing, canoeing, boating, or swimming as a result of this terror. Finally, one October, he decided to learn swimming from an instructor. Gradually, he learned to exhale underwater and then raise his nose and inhale. Eventually, the fear of putting his head under water left him, and then the instructor taught him to kick with his legs. Finally, in April, the instructor was convinced that he could swim the length of the pool. He had created a swimmer. Despite the approval of his instructor, the author was dubious whether he would still be traumatized when he was alone in the pool. The fear did come back when he tried swimming alone, but but by swimming but it but by swimming longer, he was still not fully satisfied and decided to go to Wentworth in New Hampshire. He dived off a dock and Triggs Island and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Act Island. Only once he felt the terror return when he was in the middle of the lake, but he paid no attention to it. At his first opportunity, he went up the Titan to Comrade Meadows, up the Conrad Creek trail to Medade Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of Warm Lake. The next morning, he swam across to the other shore and back. For the first time, he was sure that he had conquered his fear. This experience gave Douglas great perspectives. He felt that only those who have known terror and conquered it can understand how he felt. He realized that there is peace in death and that the terror is only in the fear of death. Dear students, this was about the author. He experienced both the feelings of dying and terror and the fear of death can produce. Now that he has conquered his fear, he felt absolutely free.